Well, Ramine, thank you very much for coming to our program. You've been at AMD for 2.5 years, but considering that you worked at Xilinx, your tenure at AMD expanded actually when AMD bought Xilinx. So you've been there for 14 years. You're a veteran of the EDA and have worked at chip architecture companies for more than 2 decades. But before we dive into that, let's talk about your background. Where were you born? Where were you raised? What did you do in your youth?
So it's really strange. I was born in Tehran, but I was born with a French accent.
How so? Your doctor was French?
Yeah, because my father had done a PhD in France before I was born, and my older brother and sister were born in France, so they didn't speak Farsi until they were a few years old. Then they went back to Iran. I was born there. Everybody was speaking French. I went to Razi, which was a French school, and then eventually, before the revolution, we went to France, and I basically never spoke Farsi again until I met my wife in the US.
And your wife is Iranian?
Yes.
Okay, and your Farsi, your Persian is better right now?
It's better. I mean, she speaks proper Farsi. I speak like 8 years old Farsi.
Oh, okay. Let me get to the parts which are the interesting question in the interest of time. You did not attend Sharif University because you left Iran.
That's right. I studied in France.
Had you been in Iran, you probably did. But you went to its equivalent in France, normal soup at Grenoble, which is similar rank, essentially. Unfortunately, they don't have a concours, so we can't ask you about your ranking on concours. But what made you become an engineer, and when did you realize that you have a passion for hardware design?
It was more software for me, but I studied EE and CS, and I ended up at Synopsys in EDA, like Rubil. And when you're in EDA, you're basically building CAD tools for chip designers.
Yes.
So you have a foot in both software and hardware. So some of them fall on the silicon side, like Rubil, and I fell more on the software side. But I kept on going back and forth to hardware and software company. When I realized I wanted to be an engineer, I guess it was in the early 1980s with the first personal computers. I got one. It was like a 1 megahertz computer with 48 kilobytes of RAM, which part of it was used by the OS. And that's when I realized I loved that thing. I was 12 years old. I was just programming night and days, monopolizing the family TV because that was my monitor.
Well, yes.
And saving my program.
What brand of computer was it? What brand of computer was it? An Apple II?
Oh,
I had one of those.
You know, it was the same processor as Apple. It was a 6502, but you won't know it. It was a British brand. It was called Auric.
Okay.
Auric Atmos.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know it. So with that love, you went to Ansimag and you got your master's over there.
That's right.
How was that experience different from getting a master's in the United States, do you think? Is it harder?
How is it different? First, it's free.
Okay. That makes it easier, yeah.
And harder, I don't know. I didn't really study in the US, but...
Have you compared yourself and your knowledge with engineers who go to, colleges over here? Actually, when you went to Berkeley for your, studies and doing some EDA over there, did you realize, do you know more than the fellow students that you were over there?
I think in the US, maybe in high school, they don't study as advanced science as in Europe, but they do catch up in university. Because when you get to university in Europe, you're kind of exhausted because they put so much in your head.
Especially with baccalaureate.
Exactly. Yeah. So you want to let go a little bit of the pedal. In the US, it's the contrary. When they get to university, they're so fresh, and that's when they learn a lot. And at the end, they're very strong. They're very, very strong in the US when they come out of universities.
Excellent. Now, at AMD, you are at the helm of AI innovation. At times that NVIDIA is enjoying dominance, not in AI hardware and its support software, but also in market recognition and adaptation. This is a very challenging position for you, with huge rewards for AMD and you if and when you succeed. And to be sure, there are some huge challenges. Let's go through some of these challenges. One of them is technological. What are the key technological advancements that AMD is focusing on to compete with NVIDIA at the AI hardware market?
Yeah. So technology-wise, I do believe we actually have a better hardware than NVIDIA.
They all say so.
The problem is what Rubil mentioned. One, it's when you use it at scale, it's reliability, and the other one is software. But it is better just if you look at the specs, right? Because for something like generative AI, like ChatGPT, all that matters is how much memory and how much memory bandwidth you have in your chip, and that's with HBM memory, high bandwidth memory. And we have significantly more HBM memory than NVIDIA H100.
Give us some number.
So we have 192 gigabytes, and H100 has 80 gigabytes, so we're 2.5 times more. But the bandwidth is what's also important. We have maybe 1.5x higher bandwidth. But that means if you take a 70 billion, Llama 70 billion model, it fits in one of our GPU. You would need 2 H100 GPU. And it's going to be the same with GPT-4 and all that. By the way, Microsoft did deploy our GPU for GPT-4. That was announced by Satya Nadella at Microsoft Build just a couple months ago. And he did say we have the best TCO because they need half the GPUs to infer. Now, why don't we make $50 billion a year? Because NVIDIA makes 100. That's what he said. It's software and reliability.
So where is AMD investing in its R&D resources, and how does it plan to differentiate its product from NVIDIA offering? Where are you spending your money?
So hardware is one, obviously. So how come we can put 2.5 times more HBM than NVIDIA? That's because of the technology AMD has, which we used to beat Intel, basically, at CPUs. I'm not sure people realize, but AMD's market capitalization is higher than Intel's. Of course, NVIDIA's market capitalization is higher than Intel plus AMD plus Qualcomm plus a bunch of other companies.
That's just the stock prices. Yes.
But that technology that we have includes basically chipletization of big chips. Yeah. So that's what NVIDIA did with their next generation. But in our current GPU, we have 4 chiplets. So the package is huge. We have 4 chiplets, and on the best part is that they're on top of another chip. So it's 3D. Yeah. And the top is multiple chiplets. And so the fact that it's 3D means we can pack a lot more logic, and we have a lot more room to put HBM memory. That's why we have this advantage. Now, NVIDIA went into chiplets, and maybe in the future they will go on 3D as well. So they'll get the same technology there.
But you have the advantage there. How about the software ecosystem to support AI development?
So that's the big piece. And I have to say, right now, as we're talking, you would take any AI model of Hugging Face, it will 100% run on our GPU. Stable Diffusion came up with Stable Diffusion 3.0 like a few weeks ago. They ran it on our GPU, it just ran out of the box. So everything runs. The problem is, does it run at the highest possible performance? And that's why when we talk about CUDA, software, NVIDIA has so many software developers, the real issue is how do you run at high performance? So AI is basically about doing massive matrix multiplies that will never fit in the GPU memory. So the question is, how do you slice those big matrices into tiny little matrices and do tiny little matrix multiply and put everything together so that you use your silicon very efficiently? Like 90% of the time, for example, it should be doing multiplications, right? So if a startup like a Samba Nova or someone does a hardware that's far better than AMD and far better than NVIDIA, but they're at 10% efficiency to do those matrix multiply, they're not going to survive. And that's what's going on. All these startups are coming, they're doing this great hardware, far better than any of us could do, but 10% efficiency, so they die. And Google, their TPU, by the way, it's not just Google. AWS also have their own chip. It's called Inferentia for inference and Trainium for training. And Microsoft just did theirs. Meta just did theirs. They have great hardware and great efficiencies for their own internal workload, and it's terrible for general purpose AI workload. Yeah.
So another issue you already mentioned, the one with Intel, is partnership and collaboration. Can you elaborate on any of the recent or upcoming partnership or collaborations that AMD has established to bolster its position in the market, in the AI market?
Sure. One of them was Hugging Face. So we partnered with them a year ago now, and we basically gave them some GPUs, and they're running continuous integration and continuous development on our GPU. So any new model that comes on Hugging Face, but Hugging Face is a massive repository of 750,000 different AI models, most of them generative AI model. So whenever a new model comes in, they try it on our software, on our hardware. Whenever we come up with a new software, they try it and they tell us all the issues and we fix them immediately. So that guarantees that we always have day zero support for any new model. And we work with other companies like VLLM, for example. VLLM is a open source company from Berkeley to infer large language models. Other companies like Llama Index to build pipelines like agentic pipelines with multiple LLMs and so on.
Which one of these do you think is going to be so significant that's going to help you in your battle against NVIDIA?
Hugging Face for sure. I mean, it's a tiny little startup that's worth now probably $4 billion. Everybody uses them, so everybody uses them. And then, of course, our partnership with the big guys, right, Microsoft and OpenAI. We've been actually working with them night and day for the past year to get to that launch of inferring GPT-4 on our GPU.
That's the big prize for you.
So yeah, the ones that help are obviously our partnership with the big hyperscalers like Microsoft, Google, and so on, and then with Hugging Face, definitely.
And how do you feel about that? Do you think you can contend successfully? Obviously, otherwise I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. As I said, right now our software runs everything, and in terms of efficiency, we got there with GPT-4, we got there with the Llamas, we're getting there with the Mistrals and the QN from Alibaba. So it takes writing a lot of optimized libraries to get to high efficiency. And NVIDIA wrote maybe thousands of optimized libraries and still writing a lot. They have a lot of software developers. So we need to do that, and we need to raise the ecosystem to do that with us as well in order to catch up.
Another issue for you is, in the market strategy that you should have is generative or general purpose GPU has to be good not only at one segment, not only at machine learning. You have to be good at AI hardware market, from data centers to edge computing and all that. So what's your strategy to be able to be so flexible? yet so efficient that you satisfy both ends of these constraints?
So first, I don't know if people realize that, but AMD GPUs are actually the top GPUs in the world for HPC workload, high performance computing. Yes. Those are scientific workloads for like climate research, health science, and so on. So the biggest, the number one supercomputer in the world on the top 500 list is AMD supercomputer with AMD CPUs and GPUs. It's called Frontier. It's one of the national labs are using that. It has 1 exaflop, that's 10 to the power 18.
Yes.
So a billion 64-bit operation per second. When we're talking about AI, we're talking 16-bit, 8-bit, 4-bit. That's a billion 64-bit operation per second. And it's been number one on the top 500 list for the past year and a half. And we're going to come up with a new one by the end of the year that's probably be twice as powerful. And so we have leadership there for HPC. And now we're starting to have leadership technology-wise in AI as well, but obviously there is a lot of work to be done there. And NVIDIA comes up with new products extremely quickly, so that's also a challenge. When we announced our GPU with a lot more HBM compared to H100, they came up with H200. That's going to come out this year, which increases the amount of HBM. So that's going to come out before Blackwell as a response. So now we have to respond.
They are working hard. Two issues before we get to the questions of people. One of them is power. How does that play into your plans? Is there any global power shortage or deficiencies we're going to have because of AI and all these needs for AI? Or is there a local concern with power that is limiting some of the work that you can do? But the second one is kind of obvious, but the first.
So clearly, hyperscalers like Microsoft, Google, AWS, and so on, they have two problems in their lives right now, only two. One is space, and the other one is power. Space and power. To put more compute, more GPUs and more CPUs in their data center. And so yes, it is important to optimize for power. So when we do new systems, NVIDIA or AMD, when we do new systems, they typically use more power, but for 2 or 4 or 10 times more computation performance. So you're actually helping the problem. Yes. So you take like, let's say a room full of computers, like this room, and you turn it into a quarter of the room with maybe half the power and the same performance. But if you look at the individual GPUs and CPUs, they take more power than the previous CPUs and GPUs. But because they're so much more performant, you're actually using less space and less power for the same compute. So we're doing that, and it's exponential, NVIDIA and AMD. The performance per watt is going down more than 2x every 2 years, more than 2x every year and a half. So it's going down more than Moore's law. Yeah. It's very significant. Of course, the goal would be maybe in a few decades to do something like a GPT-7 or GPT-8 in 25 watts, which is how much power our brain uses, right? Right now, it's several kilowatts.
And that would be with quantum computing, perhaps.
Maybe not. Maybe we can get there differently.
Well, yeah.
And in terms of supplying power, now hyperscalers are talking about building small nuclear powers, like mini nuclear power, locally, just
no
to power their data centers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, lastly, the topic that you raised in our earlier conversation about should we be afraid of AI? And your short answer was no, and you promised to expand on it today.
Yeah. So I'm not afraid of AI at all.
We're afraid, yes.
The thing is, every time there is a new step function in technological innovation, people are afraid. It was the case for airplanes, for trains, for cars, for fire, I'm sure. We weren't there to check,
so
but
this is going to be just the same normal thing. This
I think
reminds
so.
me of
I
this,
think so.
of this guy who is feeding this bird every day, and the bird thinks everything is fine every day until Thanksgiving.
Until he eats the bird, yeah.
So we're okay because everything has been okay in the past.
I think it's going to be okay because technology has been always there to improve our productivity, and this is no different. It just improves human productivity. So now, yes, this is a technology that will eventually have, maybe in 10, 20 years, eventually have a general intelligence that outperforms human intelligence in
smart
completely,
yeah.
Which is not the case today, right? Today, we cannot build a robot with ChatGPT in its brain and just 2 cameras and tell the robot, okay, I'm going to teach you how to drive a car today, and tomorrow you can drive a car. Right? You can do that with a 16-year-old human. You cannot do it with a robot, even with the most powerful AI in its brain, with, again, just 2 cameras for 2 eyes.
So we have a few years.
So maybe? We have a few years before we get to real intelligence, like learning new tricks. But when we get there, it's going to get 2x more intelligent a year and a half later, and 2x again, and 2x again. So it will become 10 times more intelligent than human, 100 times, 1 billion times more intelligent than human over time. It will happen.
We shouldn't worry about that.
I'm still not afraid, because I think we're going to use that to improve our lives. And we have examples, right? We have done that. We even at Xilinx, the company I was at, that AMD hired, we were doing tiny little chips that were also accelerating AI. And we used that with CERN, and they used that to actually discover the Higgs boson. We use that with Illumina to do very rapid genome analytics of newborn babies who are born sick, to find the cause of their disease, literally saving babies' lives. We're doing space exploration. We have a Xilinx chip on the rover, the self-driving rover on Mars. So we've been using AI for a lot of good for humanity, and I don't think it will change just because it's 1 billion times more intelligent than us.
Well, with that optimism, which I really like, and I hope it lasts, I would like to open the floor for your questions. We have Ali over here. Can we have the mic, please? Or should I use my mic? Omid? It's coming? Okay. Ali over here.
Thank you. My name is Ali Rostami. It's been a while as for the affiliation that I've been working on an idea of mine. In a stealth mode, really doesn't have anything to say about right now. What I can say is it needs consumer-grade hardware, right? So that's the way that I see it. It's an immediate.
What's your question, Ali?
It's an immediate market, right, that you can enter that NVIDIA is not. So can you tell us like a little bit about what's the plan? Do you want to like catch these segments of market?
So NVIDIA's customers are actually looking for an alternative, and they're also looking for more supply. So right now we're very happy to fill that gap. We are looking at other market, but really right now the demand is so high for generative AI that we're very happy in that market.
The lady over here.
Hi, merci beaucoup. C'était un plaisir de vous rencontrer. And my name is Sarv Noderzad. I'm from Comet. I'm a market analyst in semiconductor industry. It's interesting that you brought up the market cap, because I was always thinking NVIDIA is stealing it from all of us, and not, I mean, the attention. But I'm glad that we have them, because now you know, say semiconductor, and they're like, oh, NVIDIA. So I want to ask you, why do you think the rest of the ecosystem, because the efficiency that you talked about, it's you know, it's not possible with the companies like TSMC on the manufacturing side, and the delegation that goes in the art of building these chips. So why do you think the rest of the ecosystem is not getting the attention compared to, you know, this side of the industry? That's my question. Thank you.
The rest of the ecosystem as of TSMC,
TSMCs as RF subsystem suppliers.
I think they are. Like if you look at the Supermicro stock, for example, I think they went up faster than NVIDIA did by selling NVIDIA servers. So look at Supermicro, Dell, it's happening a little with them too. Even TSMC is doing okay. And if you look at EDA companies that we both use to build those chips, Synopsys and Cadence, look at them. They're growing really, really, really nicely as well. They're on an exponential path. I think NVIDIA is really creating value for everyone, for themselves, for us, but really for Supermicro, for Dell, for Synopsys, Cadence, TSMC, I think it's happening.
Reza up front.
Hi, my name is Reza Faribar, software engineer, also faculty. So question, obviously you guys are talking about competition between AMD and NVIDIA and Intel and possibly Google. What do you think about China? And also, I guess related to this, do you think total reliance on TSMC in Taiwan is going to be like a weak link going forward?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the Chinese hyperscalers like Alibaba, they also have their own AI chip, like the Google TPU, but they're also buy a lot of GPUs from NVIDIA and AMD. They have probably the same problem as Google. What they built is very specific for one workload, but they need a lot more AI workloads. They have search and recommendations and LLMs and all kind of workload that they need GPUs for. So we don't see them there yet. There may be like Google maybe for the TPU, but they still consume a lot more GPUs than they have. Relying on TSMC is very risky, yes. It's very risky. If China invades TSMC tomorrow, it's going to be a disaster in market cap. So TSMC is building now a fab in the US. Obviously, Intel got an awful lot of money to ramp up their fab and their technology, which is behind TSMC. And their fabs being built in Europe as well. So the industry is rapidly building fabs outside of that region because the risk is very high indeed.
May I cut in for just a quick follow-up after Reza's? Do you think the fact that China also depends on NVIDIA and AMD's chips and others is a deterrent for China not to disrupt TSMC's work for the United States?
Oh, absolutely, because
they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. TSMC promised China that the day they invade, they're going to self-destruct. Yeah. They're gonna self-destruct the factory. So
nobody
it's gonna be a disaster for China as well.
Yeah, thank you. Rubil? Yes.
What?
Thank you.
Your background from Xilinx, right? What Xilinx used to do and is doing regarding the AI? I'm pretty sure like you are in edge computing and all those stuff. The good stuff that you said, you put on the Mars and all this stuff. I'm interested to know what's happening on the FPGA side for AI.
Yeah. That's actually quite fun. We are in edge computing. We're in self-driving cars and medical equipment and things like that. For example, Subaru has one of the best front camera. They're kind of a benchmark in the industry for smart cameras. We're in Subaru. We were in EyeSight 4. We're going to be in EyeSight 5. EyeSight 4 was more computer vision based. EyeSight 5 is more deep learning based. So we're going to be the chip powering EyeSight 5. It's SoC. It's really an SoC. So it has a system on a chip. So it has an ARM subsystem. It has an FPGA, and it has an AI accelerator, which we call the AI engine. It's not a GPU. It's an invention from Xilinx. Yeah.
And the last question goes to the gentleman over there.
I think the NVIDIA guy read my mind. He's using a GPU probably. I have the same kind of question along the same lines as, do you see a real merit in developing AI over FPGAs going forward with with especially AMD acquiring Xilinx technology?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, at Xilinx we build a special hardware we call the AI engine, which is kind of a mixture between a GPU and a DSP processor and an FPGA, but it's extremely dense in multiply accumulate, much more than what you can do on a regular FPGA. So I think it's hard to beat that with a regular FPGA. It doesn't have the compute density you need when you need a lot of multiply per second.
So you think AMD will continue investing in that area?
We will continue to invest, yeah, because we have the AI engine. We will continue to invest. So it's an SoC that has a little bit of FPGA, a big AI engine, and then a ARM core. We'll absolutely continue to invest. That's what's going to go in Subaru eyesight. Yeah, so we will absolutely continue to invest there. But pure FPGA with nothing on the side to accelerate AI is going to get harder.
Okay,
well,
thank you.
Well, thank you very much. On behalf of the AmidiGroup, the Plug and Play, Persian Tech Network, and the Iranian community, I thank you, Mr. Rohani, for coming and spending time with us and answering our questions.
Thanks, Said.